Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Your boy Prince of What Ifs here, and finally bringing you the fourth chapter of this series. Sorry for it taking so long, but I think that the wait will definitely be worth it. Don't worry, still working on a new series to come out. Take care of them very soon. But for now, let's talk about what if Asta had King's abilities from Seven Deadly Sins. Let's get right into it. So, Asta wakes up and realized that his room was no longer filled with excessive greenery. He no longer just created trees and flowers while he slept. But Asta's vision is blinded by hair. He slicks it back, and it had grown even more, he noticed. He pets Oslo, who was beside him, still sleeping, and he would float off and out of his bed to the bathroom. There he sees himself in the mirror and says, "So the wings are still there. Great." Just then the bathroom is barged into by Luck, who says, "We're leaving," and he says, "But I just woke up though." Luck says it's 5 p.m. and he says, "Oh, just 5 more minutes." Nope. The moment he says this, he slams the door shut. Asta gotta hurry up, and he realizes that he has to shower. After he showers, he would go downstairs on his pillow. He saw the gang was pretty excited. Yami, most of all, who was wearing something different. It's very revealing, considering the people of the kingdom aren't used to his attire and his culture, but he don't care. Yami ignores this and does as he pleases. Fernal would take him there to the capital, where they appear in the streets, and it's lit by lights filled with commoners and nobles, royals alike. There are stands, games, and a lot of stuff. Everyone splits up, and Asta and Noel are walking together. Asta puts away his pillow for today and is genuinely excited to see all the people out here having fun because he saved most of them. Asta suggested they get ice cream, and Noah wanted to play games. Obviously, he didn't win that argument. And as she drives him through the street, they then actually start to hear a melody. It's actually very familiar to them. Then they found a crowd gathered, and they were spectating Kahono and Kiyato of all people. She sang while he danced, and they were a perfect duo. And upon noticing Asta and Noel, they stopped their number short, receiving applause and praise, and the two groups would go to one another. Kaono greets them both with a hug and clearly notices the change in appearance for Asta, as does Kiyato, considering they fought. He notices it the most. It makes it so much weirder. And she says that, his wings are beautiful, and God, he got way taller than her. And embarrassed, Asta says that he can't put them away and it's kind of bothering him, but they're not bad. Well, don't be shy. I mean, literally all eyes are on you already anyway. Kiyato says that maybe that's not exactly helping, and it's not because Asta doesn't like to be stared at. No one does. But she does mean the compliment and says so. And as for how they got here, well, they guilt tripped their grandfather, who was a grand priest, but now they can finally hang out on the surface. Kano says to do a double date. She purposely says this and grabs Asta running off with them, aiming to make Noel react. She feels the two really care about each other way more than most people, and they just need to express it. Noel can't believe she, casually did this and is offended. Yes, she tries to act like she doesn't care because, well, she doesn't want to think that she's got a thing with Asta, which kind of proves Kahono's point. Now, Noel can't believe that she just casually did this and is offended, but then tries to act like she doesn't care, which kind of proves Kahono's point. And so they begin to, explore the festival. During this, Kiyato kept trying to impress Noel, and that didn't work because, well, even though he had fallen for her, unfortunately, she just didn't notice his advances. Life just ain't fair sometimes, my boy. You'll find someone else. You're an anime character, you know what I'm saying? Now, while they were heading for, the next game after they were messing around, Kaono, being who she is, notices how Noel has been passing glances at Asta, and he's been doing the same, actually. And so she asks Asta, and he says, "Present, what's going on? What do you think about Noel?" In her head, Noel is freaking out while Kiyato feels betrayed by his sister, because like, well, how you gonna cop block me like that? But Asta starts to think, but before he could say anything, he feels a sort of presence. He instead runs down the street to a crying little girl who's all by herself, and no one helped her, as in the area there were mostly nobles and commoners around, but the commoners were too busy working to help, and well, the royals are royals. They don't care about anything. So he comes to her aid, and she calls him a fairy upon seeing his wings. This is pretty ironic to him now because, well, now it's very accurate. And he chuckles, but now that she's calm from seeing the wings because they're so beautiful, he asks what happened. She said that she lost her mother, and Noel approaches next, saying that Asta will find her. And using his ability to speak to one's mind, he calls her mother over, and she arrives pretty quickly, sweeping the child into her hands. She scolds her, but then thanks the two for finding her daughter, saying, well, she's very grateful, and the daughter said that the fairy helped her. She looks up and is stunned to see Asta's wings, but the mother also sees the medallion of Silva on Noelle and apologizes for showing such a sight because, she's a noble and all that. Noelle lives with the bulls, so she doesn't really care. But before she can say no, like it's all good, murmurs start to spread and nobles are really poking fun and making fun of these people. Noelle wants to lash out because she's seen a different perspective. This mother and daughter don't deserve to be mocked like that. But she calms herself and dismays the need for her to not help just because she's a noble, and says that she should help because she is a noble and she did so and she's very proud to have helped. She may not know that, this mattered a lot, but the mother, what am I doing? The mother felt very affirmed by these words. The Silver family, if you guys don't remember, because Black Clover hasn't been back in a bit, is a pretty high-ranked royal family. So from her, a noble and a knight as well, this means a lot. It's like finally being acknowledged, like being someone invisible and finally being seen by someone. She thanked them both again, and the pestering crowd begins to clap. It was a genuine show of responsibility, as they, nobles are supposed to be acting. It's not like they changed their ideologies completely just from seeing that, though. They are acknowledging it in their own way because they feel proud to see one of them actually doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. Basically, they're being self-righteous while also being pricks, but change doesn't happen overnight. Hopefully they will change for their sake. Noelle and Asta rejoined their friends, with Kyoto saying that was pretty amazing and only made him like her more. Of course he doesn't say that because Noelle not into him like that. Just then Julius's voice is heard. He directs all the attention to the main stage and more gathered by it. All eyes are on the Wizard King, and he says, "Thank you all so much for attending like every year. Seeing such a celebration, it really fills me with such joy that we can all still be together despite all we've gone through. But without them, we wouldn't have made it. So give a round of applause to your Magic Knight captains." From backstage, we have Jack, Mary Leona, Nozel, Rill, and Alice make it. Well, not Alice, Dorothy. I'm mixing up names, sorry. And also William. In this version of events, I'm pretty sure William didn't show up in the original, which is kind of weird. I just don't remember him being there. If he is, let me know. But yeah, William is here as is Dorothy, who is sleeping as per usual. The crowd explodes with applause, whistles, and the like. Nozel meanwhile asks where Yami and Charlotte are. Real answers that they're enjoying the festival, and honestly, he wishes he had gone to enjoy it as well. When the applause dies down, Julius would say that it's time to get to what they're here for, the Magic Knight rankings. In first place, there's the Golden Dawn. No one is surprised by this because they're the best of the best right now. The Silver Eagles are in second place with 95 stars, and the Blue Rose are in third place with 83 stars. And Julius says, "I think you'll be quite surprised by this year's fourth place, the Black Bulls with 74 stars. Yami spits out his drink immediately. Magnus screams in confusion, as does literally anyone else. They're just beyond surprised, especially the Magic Knights present. With Mars' magic, he was able to showcase all their contributions they had made this year. And mind you, rumors spread of Asta's doings when the Diamond Kingdom attacked them, but even then, from last place to fourth place is a big jump. The rest is just whatever. It's the same as the original. Meaning, unfortunately, the Awkward Deer are dead last this year, which breaks poor Real's heart. But Julius wasn't done speaking. He says, "Now among all these knights, there are two who were instrumental in this year's rankings. You know from the Golden Dawn." As he's introduced, he steps out from the back and arrives in all his glory, and he carries besides him Belle, and has girls falling for him, men respecting or hating him because he got the hose, and everyone notes especially on the fact that he carries the spirit of wind, but Julius mentions that he has it anyway, even though it's clearly out there. Asta watches him with a big smile, and he cannot believe that little whiny went so far. Then his own name is called, and he says, "Huh? Noel, who called for me?" "You idiot, the Wizard King did." From the back, Magnus shouts that he better get out there, but Yami squeezes his way through, grabs him, and with magic he throws the boy, and he's just confused, like, what the hell, bruh? Everyone watches him drop from the sky as he would spin and he reaches the stage in time, and his wings would swing wide open, stopping him to a float. Before he can even express how surprised he was, he's interrupted by shouts and whistles, and Asta notices something, asking Yuna why some girls looked as red as Noelle usually would. and he says maybe it's a disease or something. Looks to Bell, who holds the same look of pity for how oblivious he is. While he's stuck in his own world, however, everyone just serenades them, and it's just amazing. And Julius says when they first got here, they were no more than lambs. Now they've risen the ranks, becoming the pride of their squads, from the forsaken realm of Hodge to the capital. Quite a story, isn't it? Now this statement stops the rolling ball of admiration. If they were truly peasants, then that made their achievements suspicious. Even commoners and peasants find it hard to believe, as this way of thinking is so deeply ingrained in their minds. Julius probably says it again, that they were peasants, but reassures that the results come from hard work. Some people like Rebecca even protest against this, like, why are you hating on them? Kids from the orphanage do as well, but this isn't exactly helping as much, and because Seke is also over there opening his big ass mouth because he's a hater. So Asta felt their confusion, hatred, malice, and bigoted words pass through him, and Yuno's about to speak up, but Asta raises his hands into the air, saying that they just need to show him some proof. Every single person present would then fall into their own subconscious. Their minds would fill with Asta's perspective. Using outer voice, he gives them his story from when he was cognizant enough to understand what was happening around him as a kid to now, in the form of a slideshow. They saw him and Yuno at the orphanage, saw him defend Yuno, saw him train and fight, put his life on the line. All key events that happened until now. Then the spell ends and everyone is just silent. And Asta says, "This is some story. This is our lives, and I won't have anyone deny us our work." Yuno says, "Agreed." The wind around him begins to converge and just move rapidly. The incredible amount of magic he can emanate shocks everyone, and then he fires it damn near point blank at Asta, who just pulls back and strikes the air with a punch, dissipating it and just rippling out massive shockwaves. Slowly but surely, everyone began to clap. Some wept even and felt their hearts race from the sheer amount of emotion they felt from Asta. Their lives aren't stories, but damn, was it an emotional roller coaster to witness even a sliver of it. Julius then whispers, asking what he did, and Nozel says he's curious as well. Asta explains that he implanted his memories within them. Though they will fade because, well, it's too much to handle, they will never forget the feeling they got from it. They will always remember what he showed them. Subconsciously. When the applause eventually dies down and some wipe their tears, Julius has one more thing to present, and that is none other than the king himself, Augustus. Now he comes and makes a fool of himself, as you expect. Asta and Yuno exit the stage with Julius's blessings, but as he leaves, Asta actually starts to wonder if maybe he had already achieved his goal. He staggers a bit behind and is snapped out of it by Yuno because he's just kind of in a daze, and he would ask Asta if he's okay. He says he is. Now further down they go the stairs, the more they get down there, as they talk, they hear someone. They seem to be berating a bunch of people, and then they find them, the Crimson Lions, being screamed at by Mereoleona. She berates the Crimson Lions, calling them pathetic and worthless, and Asta feels bad, saying, "Damn, yeah, she means it too." Now Mereoleona is harsh, but also does things for a reason. She was able to motivate them to grow stronger, and she does it pretty brilliantly. But then she, of course, ropes the two young stars into her plans as they try to make a getaway, because this lady is crazy. When they're trying to make their escape, they would freeze and look back to be grabbed by the paws made of fire. "You're going to be joining in on our training today." When she says this, immediately, they know they're cooked. But Leopold congratulates both of them and compliments Asta's wings, something which no one is fully used to yet. It's pretty weird. Asta says, "Thank you. I don't really want to do whatever you're about to do." "You think you have a choice, huh? You're crazy." "Thanks, Twinkle Toes." At this point, when she says that, he knows that he ain't getting anywhere with this. He just gives up, as does Yuno. Moments later, the Crimson Lions, Yuno, Asta, Noel, Yami, Charlotte, Sol, all of them find themselves in what they can only describe as hell, the grand zone of magma. She welcomes them to her favorite spot. Why is this her favorite spot? I know why, I saw the movie, but goddamn. Anyway, they're honestly begging for death just from being close to the heat. They haven't even entered the actual region yet. They're on a cliff. Everyone is kind of freaking out except for the captains and of course Asta and Yuno. Though Yuno is still sweating bullets and kind of faking confidence because his rival here, he's not going to show a weak face. Charlotte rightfully asks why she was here, and Leona answers, why not? Like, what the hell you got going on? Then you know the drill. Now they have to make it to the top of the volcano, but they don't know how to make it past all this lava. To this, Leona just has to figure it out and goes on ahead. Yami takes a puff of his cigarette though and says, like, let's just get this shit over with. And the moment he says this, he lunges forward, and Charlotte agrees. So they just keep going on ahead towards the top of the mountain. But somehow neither of them are being affected by the molten rocks and lava below. The others in comparison are having a hard time breathing right now. They haven't even taken their steps over the cliff into the actual region. They're practically heaving and sweating bullets, but Asta is somehow completely okay. He then turns to Yuno, saying that he shall see him at the top, and with just one flap of his wings, he flashes forward, and his body is enveloped by mana. Everyone sees him do this, and he would swerve past the captains, but from underground, a golem of magma erupts, towering over him. His spirit spear would then be conjured from his grimoire, and a hole is carved through the creature, and he flies through, grabbing onto the end of the giant spear, making it disappear. Charlotte then comments, "You have quite the troublemaker on your hands. Yeah, tell me about it." Everyone else starts to realize that they are using mana skin to protect themselves with, a light coating of magic. Yuno immediately adapts and uses it and would take off after Asta. Everyone else begin to get it as well, but they struggle. And at least they start to, march though. Asta, meanwhile, would catapult to the sky, aiming straight for the top. And Leona could not be more impressed. Now she wanted to face the prodigy she's heard so much about and blast down towards him like a falling comet with a massive grin and also a lot of anger issues and adrenaline problems. I could go on, but I'm not going to. As he inches closer and closer to her, Asta readies his fist and it explodes with magic. Leona does the same, and she laughs because it's been a while since someone tried to challenge her like that. Like hand-to-hand combat is Leona's thing, low-key. So she's like, okay, bet, let's see what's going on. So when they clash their fists, a shockwave of air and fire expel, reaching down the mountains, and it's felt by the approaching captains. They are completely shocked, and Yami remarks that Asta finally figured out that one spell. As they push back and forth with punch after punch clashing, Asta's face remains calm, and he would then let her punch fly past as he knees her in the stomach. He snaps the air again just from this alone, but Leona tanks it and hooks him in the ribs. It does nothing at all, however. Both push back at one another and end up a few feet away, and Leona asks how he's not in pain. It's not that I don't, it's that the damage is reduced to nothing. Whereas, he holds his middle finger and flicks it forward, and the petal flies past her. She dodges last second, like super last second, and a massive cut is just open on her cheek, whilst the petal pierces and throttles the air. For a minute, she wonders how that is possible, but figures it out, and she just starts laughing like crazy, unable to contain herself. "Oh, I like you, Asta." "Please don't, you're scary." She then gives him a passage to the spring, and he thanks her. His wings would flap, making him seemingly teleport to the summit immediately. He comes to a float, and I've taken notice of this because, well, the more he gets used to the wings, the faster he gets. And he really starts to wonder just what a fairy is, because by now it's been confirmed that it was an actual thing, mostly based off of fairy tales, but it seems like fairies might actually just be a real thing, because the Witch Queen seemed pretty convinced that it was a real race, and, well, the Witch Queen's been alive for years. She's practically immortal. He would start to think about it. He falls into a cross-leg position, and he really starts to think about everything that's happened up to this point. He finally accomplished what he always wanted to, and now he feels kind of empty. He is respected, he is needed, dependable, sometimes even feared, so he asks himself, what's next? Yami interrupts him, picking him up, annoyed that he's being, depressing and shit. Like, you're not gonna be acting like that, bringing down my mood. And he asks him, what the hell are you doing? And he would ask his captain, what do I do now? Huh? I don't really have a goal anymore. Charlotte arrives just then as Yami yells that this is how it always is. Being human, you will never be fully fulfilled. If you accomplish the goal, there will always be something else after he will be chasing, and sometimes he might not achieve it. Asta then asks what's the point of anything, and Charlotte answers that, well, he must keep moving because if he doesn't, he will just become a husk. This is the first piece of advice that the Blue Rose captain gives the young man, and he thanks her. But then he asks Yami, can you stop squeezing my head, like for real? Oh yeah, force a habit. He drops him, and next to arrive is Yuno, and everyone else slowly trickles in. Marileona then shows them the hot spring. Sol creates a wall to separate them, but while they're soaking in, Asta begins to slowly open his eyes. He was like sleeping for a minute, and then when he opened his eyes, he was surrounded by the Crimson Line members, including of course Leopold, and he's like, "Okay, what's up?" They're curious of his strength and ask how he became so strong. Asta would arrive showing his defined build that they didn't notice prior. Contrary to how Asta seems to be, from wearing baggy clothes, he is still extremely built, as I've shown, because his punches pack a wallop. Everyone kind of fanboys about it, and the girls hear it, calling them annoying. When he's submerged back down though, Asta said that for his magic, it was different, because the body supports his magic sometimes, but honestly, he just plays with it to increase its effects and power, and everyone finds this kind of strange, but Asta demonstrates it. Alright, he creates a dagger and interrupts with vines from the sharp edge. The vines then split off, turning into smaller daggers that would shoot forward, striking the wall between them and the women before it reforms into vines that rose and, and became this drawing of all the Black Bull members. He literally did a drawing with vines and roses, by the way. He says to try it. Magic shouldn't always be about battle. By messing with spells, you learn tricks and you can convert them into attack spells later if you want. Now the notion of this is kind of ingenious. Everyone always just kind of trains by firing magic and just pushing their limits. It never occurred to them that they could just experiment in such a way that was also fun. Holds his hands out, checking it, and well, he starts to play with magic as well, because now he has another way to get stronger. Now, after all that time passes, we go to the same Coliseum where Asta had become a Black Bull. Asta stands now accompanied by the members of his squad. Gordon, Gray, and Gauche, and Vanessa stayed back though to hold down the fort. Many other squads showed up, all with reputations and their pride to uphold, many being known as geniuses in their fields. Yet amongst them all, they all fear the Fairy. Yes, this is his nickname, because he has fairy wings, but they know what that name is associated with. Don't fuck with Asta. That's something everybody know. He will mess you up. Now, while he and the bulls are talking, they notice passing glances, but they also kept looking because Asta had changed again, not just because he's famous for being a powerful mage. Mimosa and Klaus had just arrived, and while looking for the bulls, they see them, but then they see this towering man and wonder who he was. The funny thing was, his magic also felt familiar, so they approach, shout hello, but that very tall man turns and shows he's actually Asta. They're completely taken off guard, and Klaus would check his body. What has happened to you and your wings? Did they get hurt somehow? Where are they? Oh, hi guys, I had a growth spurt. You don't say. What happened to you? Lux said that one day he just became like this. Even his voice had changed, as I just demonstrated, like he just went through instant puberty. Charmy takes pride saying that it was all due to her, nutritious food and all that. And yet Noelle says that despite all that change, she was the same buffoon. Honestly, the bulls are focusing on everything but what really matters, which befuddled the Golden Dawn members. Asta has grown to 6'4", his hair, no matter how much he cut it, just kept growing back, and it actually got longer every day. So Noelle and Vanessa fixed it up for him and made it nice into a big ponytail. He also had to get new clothes because he was way too big now, so Vanessa made a few things for him. As for his wings, he can now retract and expose them as he pleases, and he even learned how to do a few things with his magic, and he has learned his true power. People just couldn't stop talking about him. Like, he had so much talent, looks, admiration from people. What am I doing? Admiration from people, power. The list was endless. Asta confirms to his friends that he was feeling okay though, and says that he basically just had a massive growth spurt. Actually, it was so instant that he felt a lot of pain and ended up sleeping all day. Mimosa reminds him that he does that anyway, which he can't deny, and it makes her giggle, which makes Noelle jealous, and she kicks him in the back of the knee for that. What was that? What was that for? What was that for? For being stupid. Okay, sorry, I guess. Pretty soon, Julius arrives and begins the Royal Knight exams. He explains they will be put in teams of 3, facing another team of 3. Alright, I'm moving on. Each team has a crystal, and they must protect it, and if it's broken, the team loses. He's taken the liberty of creating a few teams himself, with Marsh's magic showing them in the air. Asta, Mimosa, and Zerx are on a team. The two are happy to be together because they're familiar with each other, but they wonder who this Zerx fellow is. Julius wonders the same, as only Asta and Mimosa are missing a teammate. Everyone else is good. He's about to take a break so they can wait for him, but then, you know the drill, Xerx makes an appearance, quote unquote, Xerx, and causes trouble, making everyone hate him, but he's still firm in his actions, not caring what anyone said. But then mages attack him, and he reflects their spells back at them, doubling in power, but said spells would freeze, and Asta says that's enough. As he lands, the man looks and sees Asta make a fist, breaking and extinguishing the spells. Rumors spread about him, with Bell huffing and calling him a loser, and Asta says that, he's on his team. Nice to meet you. Everyone is shocked to hear that, he's Xerx, because Xerx, quote unquote, actually has a reputation for being a noble man with manners. This guy doesn't seem to have any of that. Asta already knows who he really is, though, because he can read his mind, but he doesn't want to interfere with whatever Zora got going on. And the test can now begin. Using the space mage, is it Kobe? Yeah, it's Kobe. Using his magic, they're transported to a massive, wide terrain. They themselves are on this massive platform miles away from it, and to their left, there are seats for the king, Charlotte, Owen, the resident best healer, and a sleeping Dorothy, who was mostly just there to, I don't know what she'd be doing at these meetings. And then there's a seat reserved for the Wizard King himself. Asta and Yuno look at each other, fist bump, starting another contest between one another. The first match will begin with Team A versus Team B. Now, separate portals are made for each team. They step through, arrive on the terrain. Team B inspects their crystal. Obviously, Team B is Asta's group. And while they're inspecting it, Asta looks far across, seeing their opponents hiding. Then he tries to rile up the team, try to get them hype and shit. And Mimosa joins in, but Xerx is more concerned about who he is and asks if he's the guy with the wings. Asta would sprout them before retracting them just as quickly, and everyone takes notice of it, both opponents and spectators. The King Augustus questions what he just saw. He confused, because clearly that's not just magic. That didn't look like magic. When you see Asta's wings, they don't look like they're made of magic. They look like an actual part of his body. It looks biological. So he's pretty confused. Now back down there, with Team B, Xerx introduces himself to Asta, giving a handshake, but when Asta lets go of his hand, he sees a bug in his hand. Stink bug. Huh, why isn't it spraying him? The bug then actually sprays Xerx as he stumbles back, and Mimosa asks if he's okay. Oh, you mother... You know what? Fair play. Asta just tilts his head confused, and Xerx is annoyed, saying how much he hated dealing with people like Asta because they can't be bothered that easily. Well, honestly, not at all. Alright, then Julius starts the match. Alright, immediately when he does start the match, there's a diamond shard attack that nearly pierces their crystal, but it freezes because of Asta and is then shattered by him. His grimoire floats out and he flies forward, and Xerx runs along behind him, and Asta would unleash his Spirit Spear Chastaful from his grimoire. So he's not just turning the grimoire into the Spirit Spear, he chooses to do that now. And he creates one massive blade from the increased form, and as he points forward, it pierces the opposing team's crystal faster than anyone could react to it. And the crystal was at least a mile off, so everyone's kind of like, damn, bruh. He never even stood a chance, at all. Anyone who, fought Asta, whether it was a group or one person, but this really kind of set that in place. But Yuno managed to see the trail of mana despite how fast the attack was, and realized that he was finally starting to level the playing field, even if only a little bit. So Team B wins. When they return to the platform, Melissa thinks to herself that she needs to support Asta because she felt that he was out of her league now. He's powerful. He was one rank away from being able to make his own squad because he's a senior rank magic knight. He can become a captain, low-key, whenever he wants now. And he has a 4-leaf clover. And he has wings. I mean, he's basically OP in every way. So she felt she needed to try harder. Asta notices her thoughts ramping about with motivation, and he smiles, patting her on the head, and she blushes a little bit, but he reassures her that he believes in her, and she kind of freaks out, at which point Noelle was kind of yelling at him from afar, and Xerx tells him to calm down. She's gonna overheat because of you, dumbass. Asta looks at him confused like, what do you mean? God, I hate you. Okay, why though? From afar, Noelle was grinding her teeth, asking herself why he never did that to her, but then deludes herself into thinking that she didn't care. Typical tsundere shit, you know what I'm saying? At the same time, Asta remarks feeling a disturbance in the Force, which obviously was because of Noel's bloodlust. Let's move on. Team C then faces Team D, and Team C wins. Team C is Magna's team. Team F faces E and loses. Team E holds Finral, Leopold, and Hamon, who's from the Golden Dawn. Team G faces Team H, and Team H actually has Langris in it, so of course they win. But when he returns back to the stands and shit, Finral would, get in a fight with him because Langris mostly provoked it. But Finral actually faces him directly and confidently, saying that he would win, showing how much he had changed because it doesn't matter who he's up against next. He wants to do the best for his squad. But yeah, Langris don't like none of that at all, because of course he doesn't. The fifth match is soon set to begin, but amongst one of the teams, there was a particular dude named X, which, find out in the end that it is real in a disguise, and his butler Walter was here. Walter is kind of scary at first, but he's actually a really sweet old man. And at first, everyone kind of found it unfair because Real is a captain, but Julius pointed out how if any of them at all managed to defeat him, they would learn a lot of merit themselves. And Real is, of course, allowed to participate after that, mostly because Julius wants to see him in action, and he's a magic attribute, magic-obsessed freak. Now, while Real enters the stage, Walter thanks Asta for accepting Real as a friend and offers him a cup of tea, and when he drinks it, it's so classy that Asta literally couldn't even understand the taste. Enough with the interactions, though. Let's get to the matches. Real's team completely dominates, obviously, because he can use any attribute he wants in any way he wants. And Walter gets to tell Asta and those who lend an ear Real's story of how he became, how he is now, how he was a kid and he wasn't really good at connecting with people and only with his art, and it kind of left him alone. But, joining the Night Order, all that changed his life. But Real has really gone a long way. Now it's finally time for the Genius Wind Mage and, Noel and Arnregard to take stage. Arnregard might as well be a shell of a human at this point because he convulses with constant shivers and seemingly hadn't slept for days. He does try his best to be, motivating. And Noel and are arguing a bit, but when the fight begins, they immediately lock in. Whispers to Belle though, how does he deal with her every day? Belle shares this sentiment, saying that Noel is kind of a pain, and look, I like Noel, but holy fuck, would she be annoying to be around. If you say you are noble one more goddamn time, I'm gonna smack you upside your head. I don't care about your Valkyrie form. But because he's the strongest here, without another word, moves upward and towards the team. Noel doesn't like it, but he is the strongest here. And the other team advances for them with a compound spell, which is a bird of water with a shield of sand, fending off wind pressure so they're faster. And with this Wind Fang, uses a revolving blast of wind to destroy their compound spell easily. So this splits up the enemy team, leaving to deal with Alec Dora, while Solid went after Noel because he's a hater. And Alec held a grudge against because obviously he did. And that was always apparent. When he joined the Golden Dawn, well, the thing is, Alec saw, I'm going to call him Alec sometimes because I don't want to say Alec Dora. Alec saw Vengeance William as his son, very sus, but he is the very reason why Alec is continuing to be a knight, for being strong. He wanted his adoration and attention, and in came this arrogant little pretty boy peasant with a legendary grimoire. Not only stole what he thought was rightfully deserved from him, but from his point of view, he was basking in it. And he says not to get conceited because spirit magic or not, it was all just sheer luck. None of this matters. A gargantuan knight of sand rises behind him and he seized with complete anger. Belle finds him so annoying that she wanted to destroy him herself. But despite the spirit's plea, told her to back down for now, because he was going to take him on. Meanwhile, Noel began her battle with Solid, while she was actually flying towards their crystal with her Sea Dragon's Cradle spell, and she was being chased by him, but she made sure that the offensive attacks didn't hit her or anything. But eventually, they end up near the crystal, but Solid was in the way, and he was kind of taunting her. Now, Solid, as he stands between her and the crystal, will start to, berate her as per usual. You're a failure. You suck. You can't use magic at all. And while he's trying to berate her, suddenly a mushroom would appear on Noel's shoulders, and the Noel would hear the mushroom say, "Noel, it's me, Arnregard." What the hell did you stick on me without my permission? Is that a talking mushroom? Now back at the stands, Asta chuckles, thinking that even while in battle, Noel is still managing to goof off, but he was certain that she would win though. Now Arnregard tells her that He's also confident that she will win and ensures that their crystal is safe and sound because he's taking care of it and he has already defeated the third mage that was on the other team. But he couldn't help but come over here. I have many siblings, you see. I fight for them every single day. It is what I must do as a big brother. You sure talk a lot more fluently when you're using your magic, huh? It's a habit. Regardless, this cannot stand. Destroy this incompetent excuse of a big brother. No, more than that. You gotta thrash and ridicule him this instant. Now, like, I'm regarding Loki got a split personality disorder, but in this case, he is completely within his right to call out Solid because he sucks. And Solid, being the petty little shit he is, would fire a serpent of water telling him to shut up, but Noelle manages to dodge, but the mushroom is sliced to bits while she just gets a scar on her cheek. But she doesn't lose a step. She admits that she may not be as strong as he is right now, but he definitely doesn't understand how weak people could feel, and that made him a terrible knight because he didn't empathize and he didn't care about anything because he had everything that he ever wanted. But she didn't care about his opinion anymore because she had been acknowledged by greater people. She raises her wand with conviction, and as Solid reaches for, his grimoire to make another serpent of water, it is nothing compared to the dragon that his sister conjures. Now he stares down a massive beast of myth in comparison. Honestly, he's just an ant. Alidora, meanwhile, had enough of being disrespected after hearing Yuno say that he wouldn't use his spirit magic, so he puts all his power into his Sand Knight, and the Sand Knight swings. But the moment it does, there's this one massive tornado that erupts from within the spell, and it is torn apart, leaving him and everyone shocked. Because activating a spell within someone else's spell wasn't common. It is here, however, that Yuno makes it clear that he doesn't really care about Alec. Whatever grudges or dreams that he is holding on to don't concern him. There's only one dream I care about, and that's mine. With these words, Yuno walks off, turning his back without worry, while Alec Dora just completely collapses. Solid faces defeat at Noelle's spell, and her dragon bites down, grabbing him and just throwing him away, and then races into the crystal, destroying it in one blow. Everyone is left completely speechless. The weak Silva kid was no longer a weak Silver kid, and the crystal was destroyed, so Team P won. Noelle told him that she wasn't weak anymore, and he would do well to remember that, which is very clear because this nigga got bit by a dragon. He can't say shit now. When Solid hits the floor, his body was completely destroyed, but his ego was more destroyed. And in comparison, even though Alec had no scars on his body, no bruises, his spirit was completely broken. And the bulls just, cheer down Noelle. When they return to the stands, the bull go and congratulate her. And Honorguard comes over just to tell her that she did good. But of course, he's fidgeting like crazy because he's not using the mushroom no more. And Asta and Noelle stare at him longingly before Asta says, "It really is different with the mushroom, huh?" "Yeah, he is. Don't tell me you snuck a peek of that with your mind reading magic or something." "Nope, we all heard that from here. He's really loud too." Noelle, however, does appreciate his encouragement because, well, he was willing to stand up for her and she would always appreciate that, even though she sucks at showing it. Now for the next match, Asta and his team are facing Magna's team, but the terrain is changed because Julius thought it would be more fun. God, this man be having way too much fun. Julius is like what happens when you give a kid toys to play with and unlimited amounts of power and money. Alright. Alright. The teams get on their spots and get ready for the beginning to be announced on, on Julius' side. Now, Magna starts warming up, and he's stretching and shit, but he tells Sol and Kirsch, "Hey, you two, we ain't winning this." They find these words, of course, belittling, but Magna asks, "Can you take out more than a dozen powerful mages with one spell? Do you have a spell that reduces damage to nothing, even if it's magic or physical? Do you?" Sol is in complete denial, not believing Asta could really do that, because she's never seen him in action for real. And Magna says that she can stay in the delusion, but he's not staying, he's not having a mindset of defeat. He's just saying that they can't give up and they have to give everything they can, because if they're going to lose, they might as well go crazy, because Magna ain't no bitch. Obviously, he starts smiling like crazy, and he ready as a ball of fire, like he's ready to go. Sol and Kirsch don't understand why he's so excited if he knows how hard this will be, but they can agree that they're not just gonna, lie down and lose like that. And they still don't believe that they can lose that easily because, well, Kirsch is a noble and Soul is delusional. I don't know what I really don't like Soul. That woman needs to shut up. We get it. You have a sister complex. She's not even your sister. Okay, I'm gonna calm down. When the match begins, Kirsch uses his spell, Storm of Petals. Petals fill the entire battlefield, and mixed within will be clones of himself. Mimosa quickly wraps the crystal with plant magic, and Zerst just stays beside her, thinking that it's too dangerous to move right now. He knows that one of them will fall into the traps he set up in advance, so he was fine staying back. But he wonders what Asta is going to do. Suddenly, a strong wind blows through the field, and everyone looks up and sees a massive spear spinning like a saw. Using the true form of his first form spear, he was able to start spinning it and create a funnel that drew in all the flowers before Asta swings across, and the spear comes to a stop, and everything is just blown away. His wings then grow, and he rises into the air, catching everyone's attention. Now, Kirsch couldn't help but call this beautiful, which is a very important detail of his character, because he denies most things, especially if they're peasant or a commoner. But from his power to just his stature, everything was just beautiful to him. The true spear would then stop and points towards them, and it explodes with magic. When Asta snaps, it nearly pierces them to bits. They managed to avoid, but Soul had to grab the crystal and run away with everyone. Magna uses his new spell, which is a vanishing fireball. That means that any fireball he throws could seemingly disappear and reappear elsewhere. But before it lands on Asta, when he decides to throw it, the giant spear would deconstruct, reforming around the boy as his pollen garden. And it was blocked with ease, obviously. Then from above, a wave of shredding petals drop on Asta, courtesy of Kirsch, and he admits that he is most certainly different from other peasants. But I never let myself be outdone. He takes on Asta while Magna and Soul run around for the other crystal. Asta lets them go, recognizing that he must let his teammates do something. Like, they can't just be around and, see him aura farming. But this endless barrage of attacks has Kirsch thinking that he cornered Asta, because obviously Asta's not doing anything. But that's when Asta looks up at him with this deadpan look. And Kirsch felt mocked and embarrassed once again, saying that Asta was still just a peasant. When his next attack is about to hit Asta, the barrier dissipates, taking on the fifth form of increase, and massive blades would move past him, blowing away any and all magic and piercing Kirsch before he even notices. His body explodes with cuts and bruises, and he's just completely left stunned. He realized in that moment that Asta never even tried against him, and wondered how much power he truly had. He blinked 1 second, and immediately he was already gotten. He was gone. In a flash, the boy's wings would flap, and he appears behind him, readying a punch. I really hope this fixes your brain. As he says this, he quakes the air with his punch and crashes him to the floor with one of the most terrifying things you want to hear. He broke the sound barrier casually just to drop somebody. So now, Kirsch is out of the battle. Obviously, he's fucking crippled. Magna unfortunately had fallen into one of Zora's traps, and it was a pitfall, but he covers his leg with flames, leaps out from it, but the moment he does, from his left, a trap activates, shrouding him with ash magic, which would throw him to the ground, and it begins to suffocate him. But he burns it away and regains footing. God, you're such a pain. When he looks forward, he sees Zerx approaching, and he seems to not have a care in the world, as if he already won. And just then, overhead, Asta flies by, saying, I'm destroying the crystal. In a mere moment, Asta interrupts the fight between Mimosa and Soul. They were locked in with battle, each protecting their crystals and trying to destroy the other one. But with the thrust of his spear, he would shatter Soul's crystal, and Soul's completely dejected and realizes that they really never stood a chance. Team B wins. Mimosa thanks Asta, who thanks her for holding out, and his spear just returns to his grimoire, which then becomes a pillow again. He falls back on it. He's kind of sleepy right now, and he would tell it to take him back to the stands. The pillow does so, and he takes a low slight nap along the way. But when he comes to pass by everyone, when they make way, he would stick his fist out, and Fernal bumps it, and he tells Fernal to be awesome out there. Because if he fails, well, Yami's going to beat his ass. Yep, I got it. Just keep sleeping. I'll wake you up when I win. I really wish you wouldn't. Well, too bad. Asta would take this time to rest fully, because he realizes that Fernal would definitely wake him up, so he gotta get all his time in. He's obsessive about sleep. Now, while he's trying to nap, Team E faces Team G. I hope I said those feel like I messed up those team names. Anyway, just tell me if I did. There's a lot of alphabets here. Langris is against Finral, a battle between brothers. As the fight went on and on, Asta's senses begin to warn him mid-nap. He feels this weird pull, this bizarre feeling, and then he hears a voice crying out for pain. His eyes swing open and he runs off his pillow. The object follows him as he runs to the edge, and he shouts, "Finral!" He froze in place when he saw what he couldn't even describe. This was not supposed to happen, ever. "How's that, huh? I told you, there's nothing you're better at than me." By this point, Langris's eyes were bloodshot. He's beyond anger at this point. It's hard to even describe why he's acting this way. Langris grew up believing that capability meant likability. Because he was not, as good as Langris, Finral was ignored by his parents, and as a result, Langris followed in their way of thinking, that an elite like himself only feels good when proving himself and nothing else mattered. And yet, that never really mattered to Finral, because no matter how much he pushed away or insulted him, Finral always called him family. But he wanted to be rid of him, so he went on for the finishing blow, because he's kind of a psychopath. Everyone called out to him, telling him to stop, and Julius was ready to move, but he realized that he did not have to in a split second, because before Langris made another move, like bats out of hell, like demons low-key, the bulls traversed the field in a second and held Langris within their horns, ready to kill. Asta presses upon him the might of his telekinesis, bringing him to one knee, and he begins to sweat profusely. Lux says, "No, go ahead, try it. Then we have an excuse to kill you." Noel quickly ran to Finral and called out to Asta, and with the wave of his hand, he summons the Pollen Garden, and it quadruples in size, leaving the senior floating about within the sphere. "How dare you? Who do you think you are?" Asta's magic grows murderous as his wings would flare with color, scaring all except the bulls, who were just too absorbed in the fact that their teammate was about to get killed because one guy's pride got hurt. But Julius arrives, warning him not to go too far. Asta turns to him, his eyes empty, wishing nothing but death, and Julius smiles. "I know it hurts, well, especially because you can hear him, can't you? Even now. But you need to stop." Asta's head is filled with Finral's helps for plea and how much pain he is in. It was so loud that he thought he was going to go insane for a moment. But with Julius' intervention, he calms himself and detaches himself from Finral's mind. Everyone regains their breath, and even Belle was affected and asks, "Seriously, who is that guy? I'm a spirit, how am I this scared?" Said that he warned Langris beforehand. "God knows how many times I did, and now he made the worst enemy possible. Good job." Asta releases Langris, who quickly stands but stumbles to the floor. The bulls back up, and Asta kneels before him. "He talked a great deal about you. He said, even though you seem prickly, it was a facade." I shouldn't have believed him. Finral sees the good in everybody. I'm not that kind. Langris's heartbeat quickens and quickens as with a swing he aims to erase Asta, but the distortion as it reaches the mage is backhanded. Asta literally disturbs the spell with disaster, and a shockwave alone threw everyone back, even Julius, and Langris would land to the floor. He wonders, what the hell just happened? You can't just interfere with space magic like that. But Julius walks in between them, saying that they should, solve this properly. If they have this much hate, they need to actually fight it out properly. And up in the stands, everyone wonders what they just saw. They thought was abnormal, and they thought Asta was also abnormal. But Asta doesn't even have space magic, and yet he erased the effect of space magic like nothing. Seriously, what the hell is this guy? Now, moments later, the teams are thrown onto a new manufactured field so they can hash things out. Well, hash out is a understatement. Asta's gonna kill this nigga. But the distance between one another isn't that big because they really want to, have them take care of this. Their crystals are within range of both sides. However, now Langris's team is mad at him. They won their match, and yet they had to fight right away again. Julius appears in the center of the two teams, saying, "This may be a grudge match, but it is a match nonetheless. Whoever wins shall advance, and any who don't will not become Royal Knights. Now start at your leisure. I wish you luck." After he says this, he disappears back to the stands, and the air is completely tense. Langris feels like he could explode at this point. He's bottling so much anger. And his teammates couldn't even understand like why he was doing this. They couldn't even get him to strategize anything because he told them to shut up. He wanted to show everybody how above he was to these lowly peasants, and he stares down Asta from across. Now the thing is, the moment he did that, he felt fear he couldn't explain. And Mimosa feared even approaching Asta right now because, well, he's pissed off too. She called out his name, but he didn't say anything. Then his wings begin to flap and he rises into the air, his grimoire shining as it explodes above him into a sphere of light which begins to separate. As it did, everyone becomes awed. First form, true spirit spear. Everyone's commenting on how much bigger the spear became when he conjured it again. Then he says second form, true guardian. Everyone just like, there's a bear in front of them with fucking 6 arms, and it is massive. Almost like a thing you would see in a storybook. And then Asta finally decides to speak to them and says, hey guys, oh, he still talks. Can you help me? I need to give that guy a lesson he'll never forget. As his wings flap once more, Oslo erupts from underneath, now acting as his steed, and it would just growl, completely pissed off. The appearance of this other beast startled everyone again, because the magic that it possessed, it almost felt like it was a spirit in itself, like it was kind of like Bell. And of course it's mad on behalf of Finral because he's also a Black Bull by association. But Zeus begins to laugh, and Asta looks back, as does Mimosa. Zeus couldn't contain himself until he explodes. Magic Knights doing whatever they want and clashing over personal reasons. You guys were idiots, but hey, who gives a damn? I finally saw you lose it, fairy. Don't call me that. You came here to expose the corruption of nobles in the order. If anyone's doing anything personal, for personal reasons, it's you. You have no right to criticize. Will you help me? Well, I like this side of you way more. Sure thing. Thank you. He looks back forward, and Fragile, which is the ice mage of Team G, she thinks like, why? Why the hell did you have to pick a fight with Asta of all people? Like, what the hell wrong with you, bro? But Langris just attacks. He swings, aiming to carve out their crystal. But this spell is absorbed by a rune circle and thrown back because, Xerxes is always ready for a fight. Langris will then cancel out his own attack with the same spell, but notices that the many fists of the True Guardian are about to hit him. He couldn't even do anything. He is struck and thrown to the sky, and Asta appears before him, promising that he will make him suffer. He strikes him once again, but he hits him a dozen times somehow, like he was a storing space. He hit him once, and then Langris felt multiple blows on his body. He spews blood as he's thrown across the terrain, and Asta chases after him. Chastiful does as well. That means all forms of it. Oslo leaps into a portal of its own making, and he exits out another in the air, and it snarls. Its voice literally shakes the air, launching a claw-like attack through space. Langris would stop this in time with his own attack, but the spell would persist and resist against his and begins to push towards him. When he finally manages to disperse it, he suddenly feels weakened. He begins to fall until he crashes, and he wondered what happened to his magic. And then he sees all these petals falling. One hits his face, spreading weakness through it, but it wasn't one petal. There was an entire storm of them dropping, and Kirsch asked, did he steal my spell? He didn't. If anything, Asta didn't even know he existed. But in the center of the field now, a tree would rise, spreading plague to Asta's enemies and boosting the magic of his comrades by 200%. Mimosa's sunflower beam fires and not only hits but decimates Seikei's iron magic creation with ease, while swallowing he and Fragile whole. I hope I'm saying her name right. Fragile? It sounds like a French word, but never mind. Along with this, the terrain itself was completely ravaged by her attack, and Xerxes had stopped anything they tried up until this point for Mimosa to finish them off, and it was easy. He felt like a god playing with chess pieces. That's just how much magic he had at that point. Elsewhere, Langris almost crashes after being hit again, but activates Mana Zone and catches himself. You thought you had me with just that? Haven't even started yet. Take it back. Take back what you said. Spheres of spatial distortion gather and fire forward. However, the True Guardian drops from the sky. Its multiple arms bat away each strike with ease before it punches forward, and it speaks using the spell Void Strike, using Asta's move. It carves through the mana zone much to Langris's shock and hits him. Julius nearly jumps out of his seat in excitement. I was right. He was using so much magic, he literally distorted space. He copied space magic. Augustus asks Julius if he's really a peasant because he makes no sense. And the others agree. I mean, damaging a mana zone without erecting your own is insane. Like, you can't do that. It messes with the, you know what, I'm gonna stop. I don't know why I made him this OP. Now, while he's waiting to strike, because, Langris is flying towards him, Oslo would stomp down with his paw, slamming him to the floor like he's swatting a fly. And then the Spirit Spear would come and transform, getting smaller, spearing through the mana zone and slicing through his leg because Langris is still trying to create it. He then shouts for Asta to stop, but instead Asta watches as all forms of Chastaful he summoned barrage him, like completely get out. They jump his ass, along with Oslo. Oslo's just stomping down at him. The spear would take increased form and attack him with even more unexpected attacks, and each strike was brutal and had no hesitation, giving him no room to breathe, while his mana zone would slowly deteriorate. Asta watches on, his eyes unwavering. You're not worthy of the title of knight. With this outer voice, he creeps into Langris's mind and his heart, and Asta's voice screams and confuses him, filling his head with horrors which makes him lose concentration. The zone disappears and the manifestations of Chastaful freeze as they reform into a grimoire. Langris falls, his eyes bloodshot, as he holds his head in pain, and he was now begging Asta to stop, not demanding, just begging. Asta approaches, as does Oslo, who diminishes in size and returns to his grimoire. Now imagine what it must be like, how it felt to be Finral. Team G's crystal is announced to have been destroyed by this point, and Langris looks past them, seeing a hole in their crystal. But he still denied Finral, saying that he lost and that made him better. That's not how it works! His voice echoes, and it stuns everyone. All you nobles and this hate, you have more magic, more power, but it never crosses your mind to take a moment and be kind. We joined to help, to protect, to become part of something bigger than ourselves. That rage, that anger, at first Zora, I'm not gonna call him Xerxes anymore, I might sometimes. Zora mistook it as pride in his power. Despite being a peasant, Asta is OP, so he thought that Asta must have wanted to show off because someone he knew got hurt, and he was using it as an excuse. No. These words were filled with genuine empathy, love, and everyone can relate, like they've really lost their way. If it doesn't even cross your mind that you're doing all of this, you're the biggest failure of a knight I've ever seen. When the match ends, Finral, is fully avenged. Langris's defeat is stated, and he's out of the games. Asta's team returns to the stands, and Asta seems to be completely raging. Then he saw the faces of the mages before him. Sarcastically remarks that he's definitely bad with people, referring to the first time when Asta told him that before they left Hodge months ago. They all look at him with pride, and one by one they all begin to salute. The king, Augustus, questioned what they were doing, but Julius says that they were paying their respects, and in response, Asta salutes them back, thanking them for listening. Also catches himself, saluting and realizes that he did it without even thinking. Like, goddamn, I'm really joining this man's aura farming moment. Now, the next match is what's going to determine who faces Team B. The natural matchup will be left as is, so faces Rill, and he unveiled his new spirit form. In the same way, events would play out. Doesn't win the struggle against Rill, but he does break the crystal and wins the match. But this doesn't make him the winner in this version. Now he has to face the ultimate enemy. He calls out to his rival from the field, smiling as wide as possible, and Asta smiles back, shouting that it's really time for them to do this, because it's been a while. Julius is practically shivering with excitement. Two of the most genius people in the kingdom are about to face off. He quickly sets the final stage, and the teams enter portals and arrive by their crystals. When they turn in the direction of the opposite teams, there's at least 100 yards of distance between them. Not too much, but not too small. Julius wanted a good build-up before this fight started. And without any further ado, the most anticipated match has come to be. At this point, everyone is on the same page. Whoever won, they would cheer them on. But different people root for, different fighters. When the match began, combines with Bell entering Spirit Dive, The ground shaves to sand as he builds up speed and flashes forward using his spirit storm. Asta's team couldn't keep up with it. Mimosa, not being able to believe how powerful Yuno had become, well, she thinks that this fight must be over because, well, they can't really stop it and this attack is already in front of them. That's how fast it was. If this hits, the crystal will take a blow. But Asta just smiles, pops out his wings. As it strikes, the ray is stopped by an invisible force and Asta's wings will slowly begin to fill with color. The power of the spirit storm diminishes to nothing instantly, much to everyone's shock. Yuno was extremely fast, and yet Asta responded accordingly with no hesitation. Before he noticed, Asta moved in, elbowing him in the chest, and with his other hand he snaps. The 6-armed guardian rises from behind, and as it strikes with all 6 of its arms, Yuno barely manages to take to the sky in time. The bear flies after with its mouth wide open. I don't know why I keep saying ma, I did that before. Its mouth is wide open and it appears past him in a flash. His body is filled with cuts before he even noticed. He managed to block an incoming vine though. Many more of these vines attacked him, and Asta looks as the approaching Noel and Enregard are carrying the crystal with his mushroom. Kind of weird, but behind them there was this, army of mushrooms, and Asta says, well, I'll leave that to you guys. I'll leave a little gift. When he takes further into the sky, from where he stepped from, a miniature tree sprouts, giving him and them 100% boost in power. The vines stop attacking Yuno, and instead Yuno begins to run away from Asta, who begins to chase him. And he fires giant sickles of wind forward, surpassing the speed of light. But the 6-armed bear moved in, deflecting each one away without moving back. And over its head, Asta flips, conjuring the spirit spear, and in just one motion, as he swung, Yuno finds the spear right before him, and it turned giant. There was no time to react. If this attack hits, he loses. Asta barely uses the spear because the reason he couldn't is that it uses a lot of power, which he can handle, but it could cause catastrophic damage. As you've seen, like this, as I've described, this thing is massive and giant, like you've seen in the Seven Deadly Sins anime. But when it came to Yuno, it was different because he was always willing to fight and surpass Asta. His grimoire shines as it flips to a new page, and a shield of wind erects, knocking back the spear, but knocking himself back as well. This would be the spell Spirit Magic Notos. Now I know this spell happens only like way later down the arc, but consider this like a weaker version of it. Everyone is surprised that he got a new spell during battle and praise his genius. But Yuno doesn't stop there. His grimoire glows again, and with a curling scream, he creates a giant blade of wind that he calls Zephyr. It fires forward, and Asta's spear would however swing and block it from Asta with its flat side, causing the spell to shatter like it was nothing. And this left Yuno in complete disbelief. He put a lot of power into that. From above, a beam of light then strikes him and he couldn't track it, and everyone looks up not knowing what they were looking at. They were horrified to see this bizarre carnivorous variant of sunflower floating in the air. It was nothing like the previous incarnation that Asta created before. Sunflower then fires another beam down, but as it nears the opposite team's crystal, because Asta was aiming for them, Noel uses the Sea Dragon's Nest, and the revolving barrier keeps Mimosa and Zerx at bay and tanks the attack. The attack persists regardless as Asta begins to grab it and compress it and mold it with his telekinesis, and he also uses the spell Promotion. The light turns to a spear of light, and the very image of how the spirit spear looked at first is what it shows itself as. In a flash, her face was pierced and their crystal was destroyed, and Team B wins. Everyone applauds the effort of both teams, but try as they might, this was a one-sided massacre from the start. Like, that doesn't mean Yuno wasn't amazing. I mean, he got 2 spells in the span of 1 battle, but right now, he wasn't doing so good. Belle, after leaving his body, quickly checks on him, and she can see that he's very distraught. Now, as facetious and as vain as Belle acts, she didn't just choose Yuno because he looks good, but because of his soul. It was unyielding and completely different. We all know why. But this is the first time that she's seen him so sad and so down, like in complete despair. Yuno is usually always confident. He would sit up out of breath, and he thanks her for trying her best to help him, but he says that it wasn't enough. But the spirit asked if he was just gonna give up because of this, because he was there, he was almost there. But that's when he hears his name being called out. He sees Klaus approaching along with Mimosa. Of course they're very worried, they know how much this means to him. Asta is after all his lifelong rival. He says, one day I'm gonna surpass him. Today I failed, but I can get strong. I can still get strong. Much stronger. Asta smiles as he flies down towards his team, having heard the reformation from Yuno, and Yuno knows that he can hear him, so it was also a message towards his brother. But then he also has to ask something. By the way, Zora, what the, have you decided yet if we're gonna join the Bulls full time? I'll think about it. Now that the matches are over and clearly they won, it's time for Zora to leave, and he makes his exit taking off the robe he has on because he stole it from the actual Zerks. This man's actually really dangerous. Now, with the end of this, obviously everyone had also changed their views on a lot. If there are people that they'll be fighting with that are like Asta and aren't of noble backgrounds, then it doesn't matter, because as long as they win against the terrorists, then that's what really matters. And this battle against the Eye of the Midnight Sun would end in success. They were sure of that now because they were more united. A while later, Fernro awakens and he would see Luck and then Asta and Noel standing over him. Fernro, he's okay. Oh my god, he's alive. Of course I'm alive. What happened? Don't worry about it. They help him sit up and he finds that all the bulls are present, even Yami, which is shocking to him. And Yami said that he came because he heard that he got in a bit of trouble. Nothing you couldn't do. Nothing you couldn't handle though, right? Right, of course. What happened with Langris? Did you guys kill him? No, of course not. We almost did. Yeah, like super close. Thank God. I know he's a piece of work, but he's family. I didn't make it any better for him. I was a bad brother. Mana, though, says that from where they stand, his folks didn't really appreciate him enough. And obviously, they're his real family, and he thanks them for being here for him. But we're going to end off this chapter here. Sorry. Alright, hope y'all enjoyed that quick little chapter, you know what I'm saying? That was not quick at all. That took me at least an hour to record and then edit, by the way. I'm just trying to joke. But anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, all that jazz. I really don't like saying that because it sounds kind of corny, but it is important for us to reach our goal of 30K. Also, for those who may not make it this far, I'll just tell you in the next video, but I'm going to be gone for about a few, maybe 2 weeks at the most. I don't know what will happen, but I'll post as many videos as I can and maybe set one in advance for when I am gone. So just wait for me. And again, if you don't see this, you don't reach this far, or it takes you a bit long to finish the story, then I'll just like have it by the next video and I'll say in the beginning. But I hope you enjoyed, and stay safe out there. Peace. Go.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget.